What's up, people? Welcome to this spring knife talk. The topic of this video, or the topics I should say, are going to be I'm gonna talk about my EDC real quick, get that out of the way. I want to talk about whether the Sebenza is the best built folding knife, production knife that is, and whether knives are good investment pieces. Those are the three topics of this video. I'm gonna kind of freestyle them. I don't really have notes. Yeah, and probably not edit this video, so yeah, maybe it's longer, I don't know. Let's start with my EDC currently, spring 2024. Basically nothing has really changed. It's the same stuff than most of the time. Still carry the Citizen ProMaster, very good watch, very simple watch. It's not a mechanical watch, it runs on batteries, it's solar powered, so you don't really have to change them ever. It's very accurate for that reason, and titanium bracelet, so super lightweight. Yeah, easy, very breathable, big in the summer, and it's not too cold in the winter. I do like it quite a bit. It kind of carries on every occasion. It's a good dress watch, but it's also a good EDC watch. Yeah, it's just reliable, simple, it works. Good watch, good mid-range priced watch. I do like mid-range priced watches. I don't like super cheap, but I also don't like really expensive. So AirPods, I have an iPhone and I have AirPods. I think they look super shitty on people, but they are actually really good. In fact, I think they are the best headphones I ever had. They are waterproof. How do I know that? Because I've dropped mine into water like 5 times now and they still work perfectly fine. Great headphones. Yeah, Apple is good. They're making good stuff, whether you like them or not, but they're making good stuff, I think. The flashlight that I carry is the Surefire EDC L1T. That's a mouthful. Very simple flashlight, also low mode, high mode, that's it, 2 modes. American made. I stopped carrying Chinese flashlights because they always broke down. This is the first higher quality flashlight that I have, and it works really well. I do like it quite a bit. It has a wide bevel, but it's super lightweight at the same time, so it does actually carry quite well. I haven't carried it during summer yet, so I don't know how it will carry in summer. I don't even have it for a year, so I'm not gonna make a review yet about this. But yeah, this has been covered on YouTube quite a few times, and everybody says it's great. We see how it holds up. I had some battery issues in the beginning. Don't have those anymore. I like it quite a bit. Great pocket clip, great quality, good flashlight. Gonna make a video in a couple of years when it's really used and I have more things to say about it. Wallet, still the same wallet as always. Cafe Jamaica wallet. I'm not gonna open this up because I don't want you to see my information. Also, the CIA is watching this video. I do carry a lighter every single day also. I carry a small big lighter. I don't smoke anymore. But yeah, lighters are great to have. I carry it in a Kydex pouch because I don't want to waste gas, because yeah, that happens if you don't protect it. And I do always carry a backpack, and if I carry a backpack, I have a first aid pouch and electronic pouch in there. But if I don't, I still carry bandages, small bandages and big bandages, so for small boo-boos and big boo-boos, I guess. And that's that stuff. So now we have that out of the way. Let's talk about the knives, because those are more interesting, right? Great Eastern Cutlery Buffalo Check 44, that is, and that's probably my currently most carried secondary knife. So I carry a small knife and a big knife. This is my small knife. I like the 44. I have some rust spots on it, and I don't think those are from the things I cut with it. I think those are from sweating. So yeah, great walk and talk. 1095 and sweat is not an ideal combination. It's so hot right now outside, so yeah, no wonder I sweat. So here's the pen blade, and Also has a great walk and talk. This is by far the best walk and talk I ever felt on any GEC knife. It's a great knife. I love it. I love the green micarta. I think it's a great addition to what Great Eastern Cutlery has going on. Yeah, it's a great handle material for traditional knives. Smells good too. I think you also can smell the combination of micarta, brass, and carbon steel. So yeah, it's a nice knife to touch and to smell. And yeah, I currently don't carry it in a leather pouch. I just carry it like so in my coin pocket on my jeans, and yeah, works really well. Like it quite a bit. The Buffalo Jack, probably one of my most carried GEC knives currently. And let's actually put it like so. I'm gonna talk about the Sebenza in a second. I also want to talk about the 3 most carried EDC knives from the last couple of weeks and actually months actually. Yeah, I currently carry knives at over multiple weeks. I don't change out knives every couple of days. I change them out every couple of weeks. So that's how I do right now. Carried the Voyager large clip point quite a bit from Cold Steel. This is the AUS 10 version, and with a beautiful stonewash. And I like AUS 10. It's a simple steel. The whole knife is very simple. Backlog, simple steel, very nice fit in the hand, wide handle, get a good grip on there, big blade. It's a simple knife, and I like simple knives quite a bit. Times are tough currently, times are complicated. I like to carry simple things, the more complicated it gets. So yeah, this is a great knife, and it's slicey, it's stabby, it's very well for a lot of tasks. And this is not the kind of knife that you are afraid of getting dirty, because this kind of was a budget knife when I bought it. It's not anymore though. I think is it $100 now? It was like 60 or 70 when I bought it. So really good knife, perfectly centered still after all the years. Yeah, great thing. It has been good to me, and I have been good to it. And yeah, another Cold Steel has been finding the way in my pocket quite often lately. It's the Code 4 with the spear point, and this is the XHP Hollow Ground, which was probably the best steel Cold Steel ever put on the market. I think we can say that now for sure. I like the spear point because it's very robust on the spine. It's more robust than the Voyager clip point, so it's strong here, but it's also thin and lightweight. So this is kind of the opposite. This has a big handle but is slicey and pointy, and this is like a thin handle and is kind of thick. And that's sometimes kind of great if you need a very lightweight but strong knife. And yeah, definitely have this with this one. I kind of acid washed the pocket clip at some point, and yeah, I like the leather lanyard in combination with the aluminum scales. And yeah, it's a good knife. I do like it quite a bit. Very lightweight. Carry this one in the summer a lot. I should carry heavier knives right now because I still can get away with heavier knives. Because it's yeah, still jeans weather and not shorts weather. Cheers, by the way. Sebenza, kind of the next topic also. Carried the Sebenza quite a bit lately, and I do still like it quite a bit. And I have been wondering, is this the best production folding knife that we have ever made? Like, is this the peak folding knife? And I think it kind of is, actually. There are a couple of things that make a Sebenza really great, and yeah, I want to talk about those. I think we should start off with design. The design on a Sebenza is very clean, very simple, but also very well thought through. If you look at the blade, for instance, we have seen this a lot in the time that when the Sebenza came out. A couple of knife companies did that back then. They kind of raised the spine a little bit, and so you can put your thumb here on this very nice chimping. By the way, this chimping is really well done, and that's kind of the thing with the Sebenza in total. Everything that's done on here is done very, very well. So even the chimping, it's a small little detail, but it's just a much nicer feeling chimping than on any other knife you have. And so you put your thumb on here and you put pressure down the spine, crown spine, by the way, nice and round off. So you get pressure here to the tip, so you get more force on the tip. So it's kind of a small little detail, the raised spine, but it actually works. It's very practical. It's a nice feature. The blade stock thickness is not too thick on the Sebenza, so even though it's a hollow ground blade, things don't get caught up here, which they do a lot with hollow ground blades. And yeah, because it's thin enough, it goes through here very well. It's also a clean transition, it's very smooth here. And yeah, hollow ground blades are amazing for a long and lasting knife. And this Sebenza kind of is that knife that's built to last a very long time. And yeah, having a hollow grind on here is kind of an essential thing, I think. A lot of companies try to copy the Sebenza now. They try to make their own Sebenzas, and they use flat ground blades a lot because they're cheaper to make, obviously. But yeah, you can't really beat a hollow ground blade. This one is one of the last ones in S35 yen, and I'm not sure how hot the heat treatment was. I think it was like 60 or 59, I'm not sure. It was not on the super hard side, but it also was not on the super soft side, because Chris Reeve has been accused of treating knives too softly, but that's yeah, long gone. Those times are long gone. It's not currently happening anymore. Do really like the S45 VN on here. It's simple, it works well, it stays sharp for a decent amount of time, sharpens up well. Simple. Yeah, if you keep it touched up regularly, you don't have to resharpen it. And with the hollow ground blade, you get a really long lifetime out of this blade. So the blade, perfect. Good combination between robustness and pointiness, and yeah, that's the thing that I like quite a bit. I like the drop point, I think more than the in single blade shape. It's kind of more pointy and stabbier. I like that. And yeah, then it comes to the handle in the design, and the handle is also very interesting because it's kind of concave. So it has a high point here and a high point here, and then it's lower in between. And a lot of knives don't have that. If you think about it, most knives are curved down like this. Focus, camera, focus. They're curved or they're completely straight. But either way, but they're never like this. This one is like the back of a lion, I like to say, because lions also have a high shoulder, high butt, but they have kind of this dip in between. And what that does, that concaveness, basically you also have that basically on the other side here. You have a high point here, high point here, and then it goes like this in between, small little choil here. And what that does is it locks your hand in, so you can slide off the handle, but you also cannot slide into the blade. So it kind of is a really secure handle, but very, very neutral at the same time. A lot of knives have too much going on in between here, and this knife is very, like, if you want to hold it in a saber grip, you can hold it in a hammer, you can hold it reverse, you can hold it in any kind of position. And that's really great because it's neutral and simple. And especially with the inlays, I do like the inlays because they give you more of that, you know, hard use capability. And yeah, it's just a simple handle and it works. Then we come to the frame lock. The frame lock, obviously invented by Chris Reeve. Simple locking system, it's easy to reach. It is very, very long lasting. These locks hold up very, very well. My Sebenza is not as hard used as some of my other Chris Reeves. For instance, my Inkosi has a lot more use on it, and you can see the lockup is a little bit later than on my Sebenza. And it still works fine. In fact, the Chris Reeve knives get better over time, so you can see the action. Perfectly solid locked up, but the action is much smoother than on this one. This one is still a slow roller, which I have no problem with it because it's, yeah, it's kind of intended to be slow rolled because the knife has not as much wear on the lock. But yeah, ceramic ball insert, so the lock, actually the blade will wear out quicker than the lock, I think. But yeah, both of these hold up really long, for a really long time. It probably takes a lifetime to wear down a Chris Reeve lock, and if you're not stupid with it, so if you're reasonable with it, it will last you a long time. Treat it well and it will treat you well, kind of the same philosophy here. And yeah, so very good locking system. The frame lock is strong because you have your hand on here and you give it additional strength. And so it's stronger than, let's say, a liner lock. And you have more contact area also. And yeah, Chris Reeve is just really, really good at frame locks. Pocket clip, very simple, very effective, as most things on here. High ramp, good spring tension, not deep carry, doesn't need to be, and it does very well being not deep carry. I have my lanyard on here since I bought it and have not changed it, and it kind of gets gross now. It kind of is very used now, but yeah, at some point I will change it for a lanyard, I guess. It's also starting to get a little bit of that wear, that Chris Reeve snail trails, which is hard to get with the inlays. It's easier to get with a plain chain, and I do like that quite a bit because the finish is really rough at first, but when you use it, it gets really smooth. So eventually it will look like this one. And these are not forced on here, these scratches. These are all from like using it. And I do like that quite a bit because I don't like forcing, you know, snail trails and wear on knives. I don't like knives that come like they looking like they have been used. So I like these honest carrying scratches because they have more stories to tell. And yeah, it's just a little bit, the connection between you and the knife gets stronger by it. Yeah, a Chris Reeve knife is not something that I did understand when I bought it. When I bought my first one, I really didn't get it, why this knife is so much more expensive, but I do get it now because yeah, everything is built so much better than on a normal knife. The internals, the washers, really big washers, so the lockup is really great because everything is so tight in here. So there's absolutely no up and down or side to side blade play. If you think about Tri-Lock is a really strong locking system, but there's always a little bit of play. It's not perfectly solid. Like nothing is perfectly tight. And on these knives, these are tight. So they are super, super long lasting. And yeah, it's stiff, it's tight, it's hard to get any wiggle in these over time. The screws, really nicely done screws, so these are long lasting. Most knives have T6 screws right on the body. First of all, most knives have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. These has 1, 2, 3 screws, that's it. So very simple here on the construction, not just on the design. And these Torx, they go in really deep on these screws, so you have essentially a really simple screw, but you also have it goes in like this, about like this. So a really long lasting screw because you're not gonna strip them easily like a T6 or a T8. So yeah, really good screws. And that's kind of the thing with a Sebenza. It's kind of simple. Everything is made to a really high standard, and that's why they also cost so much. What I'm not saying here is that your favorite knife should be a Chris Reeve. I think there are so many good knives on the market. I personally do like Spyderco's quite a bit. Spyderco's and Cold Steel. I carry probably Spyderco's and Cold Steels more than I carry Chris Reeve knives, but I still think Chris Reeve knives are better, but they're also more expensive, and that's, yeah. But there is no better knife on the market, I think, than the Sebenza. I think that's it. It's not getting any better. There are a lot of companies that try to copy them, but they're not getting close. Yeah, I had some hinderers on the channel here lately, or I should say I had one, and I'm currently still trying one, which is the Eclipse. I talked about the XM18, why I don't like it. I think hinderers have a great build quality, but they're not even close in terms of performance, and in terms of heat treatment. I think hinderers are a couple of steps behind Chris Reeve, like quite a big distance between a Chris Reeve and a hinderer knife. The Spartan Harsey I don't have, but I think that's gonna be a good competitor over time. The Harsey has a thick flat ground blade though, and I still prefer a thin hollow ground blade to a thick flat. So yeah, I think who is getting really close in terms of build quality is Medford. Medford knives are very well built now, and yeah, these have external stop pins for the most part, which are great, very solid lockup. There is no wiggling here also. These are super precisely made, very simple construction also on the screws, very long lasting screws. I think they struggle a little bit with the heat treatment still. I think the heat treatment on Medfords are not perfect. I'm not sure what's going on, but they're serviceable. I think Chris Reeve is still better, especially now that the Magna Cut blades come in at like 63, 64 Rockwell. That's gonna be hard to beat from Medford with their. Are they using Magna Cut also now? But most of mine are S45 and S35 yen. So yeah, hard to beat. Magna Cut at 64. I think Medfords are also a couple of steps behind in terms of design because they're not as appealing, I think, visually, and I think functionally there are a couple of steps behind Chris Reeve, but they are not bad at all, and they are very, very close in terms of build quality. A couple of sharp corners here, and yeah, a couple of sharp corners away basically from a Chris Reeve knife, but they are very, very close. Medfords are great. I love them quite a bit. I think Medford is yeah, it's just a mad uncle. Everybody has one of those, and yeah, he's doing his best to be a mad uncle, and I do like him. What can I say? I do think he's really, really funny, and he has a lot of things to say that are not necessarily wrong. I think he's right on a lot of topics actually, but he is an uncle still. And yeah, so Chris Reeve, best pocket knife ever made, best pocket production knife. Yeah, I think so. I think Chris Reeve's, especially the Sebenza, is the best one that I have ever seen and handled. Yeah, there are a lot of other expensive production knives, but I think they're not close yet. Yeah, Medford is probably the closest to a Sebenza, and yeah, hopefully he can surpass that level at some point. Yeah, and kind of leads me to the next topic. Chris Reeve knives are very expensive. They're getting more expensive. Since I bought this, they have raised the price at $100 additionally. So it's crazy. I think Chris Reeve knives, the first one I bought was in the 300-ish price range, and now they are at like 600-700-ish. So the question whether knives are good investment pieces, it's kind of tricky, but I think overall we can answer it with no. I think knives are not good investment pieces. The more expensive the knives are that you collect, the less profit you're gonna make. The reason for that is because expensive knives are already expensive when you buy them. So let's say you buy, let's say 2 years or 3 years ago, you bought a $400 Chris Reeve, and now you're trying to sell it for $600 maybe, but nobody's gonna buy it for $600 because they're gonna say, hey, you tried to sell me a $600 Chris Reeve, but I can get a $650 or $700 brand new one, so I'm gonna buy the brand new one. And the same thing is true. My 21 Sebenza is like it was like in the 300-ish price range, and I can maybe sell that for 500 now, but probably not, because people are gonna say, hey, I'm gonna buy the small Sebenza 31 now, and that's 550, so why should I buy the 21 for 500? Because the 31 is kind of better because of the inlay. That's the argument you're gonna have on the secondary market. It's not true that the Sebenza 31 is necessarily better, but that's the argument you're going to run into. So and even if you sell it for 550 and you bought it for 300, like, which is very unlikely, it's probably not gonna happen, you are going to only have $200 of profit, which realistically you're only gonna make $100 of profit, because you're not gonna sell it for the same price as a new one, because the new ones are still available. Now, if Chris Reeve should go out of business at any time, all of a sudden, of course, those prices will change, and all the knives will be very, very expensive, very rare, and very collectible. And this 31 right here, instead of being worth 700 now, it will be worth maybe 1,000 or more. But it's only if Cruise Reef goes out of business and no longer sells knives. Until then, it's not going to happen. Now, same thing is true for the 21, for all the other Cruise Reef knives. And the same thing is kind of true for all the knives in this price range. At certain price ranges, you're not going to get more just if you wait a couple of years, unless the company goes out of business. Now, I think there are a couple of exceptions to that thing. One exception would be, like, for instance, Russian knives, because of the war going on. Russian knives are hard to get or almost impossible to get. So these you might be able to sell them for more than you bought them for. But also, like, you're not going to make a huge profit out of those. So maybe you bought a Russian knife for $400 back in the days, and now you sell it for $500. So again, you're only making $100 of profit, because at a certain price range, people are going to say, hey, I'm not going to buy it. Another exception is going to be Strider knives. I think Strider knives are always going to be worth more than what you paid for them. So if you bought a Strider knife a couple years back for $500, you can still sell it for $700 or $800. I think those are holding their value pretty well. But again, that's $300 profit. So it's not crazy. You need to do those. You need to sell a lot of those to actually make like real money. It's still not going to be a lot of money in the end. That's kind of the thing that I'm trying to say here. Especially Chinese knives. I think Chinese knives don't hold their value at all. Like if you think about a $50 Chinese knife, do I have one here? No. A $50 Chinese knife, a couple of weeks later after you bought it, it's only worth $35 all of a sudden, because they are already on sale, and that's kind of happening a lot. China is trying to compete with everybody by lowering the price all the time, and they do it with more expensive knives. For instance, this is the WE knife Fornix that I bought a couple of years ago, and when this came out, it was a limited edition. As you know, limited editions are kind of a marketing strategy. It's kind of bullshit, actually. They say they only make 1,000 of them, which they do, but they could make more of them. It's not like that. They just want to sell them quicker, so that's why they say it's a limited edition. Similar to sprint runs, but I think sprint runs are a little bit different because, you know, Spyderco cannot always make the Manix 2 in Rex 45 VN, because at some point they have to choose a steel that they do permanently, and the other steels are just for sprint runs, right? So it's kind of a marketing strategy also, but it's not as bad as with like limited editions, I think. So this knife, limited edition, came out, cost like 300-ish, and then they immediately put it on sale because it wasn't selling quickly enough for them. Put it on a sale for $200, put it on a sale for $120. It like really dropped in price super quick. So I personally bought mine a little bit over 100 euros, and I mean, I can sell this for 300, 400 maybe, I don't know, probably not 400, but probably can sell it for 300. So, but again, I'm only making 200 profit, so it's not really profitable in the end. And yeah, that's kind of the thing here. The profit you're going to make is only going to be very small. And again, Chinese knives, they don't hold their value. They drop super quickly in price all the time. And yeah, it's kind of the reason. It's kind of because of their marketing strategy and everything, and because how China is pushing the economy. But yeah, that's on their fault. It's not the knife's fault necessarily, because they make some great knives. They just have a weird strategy when it comes to marketing and to selling things, and basically competing with the lowest price possible. So yeah, I think other countries' knives hold their value a little bit better. I think Taiwanese knives hold their value better if they have a name behind it, like Spyderco or Cold Steel. I sold a lot of my older Cold Steels. I don't have one here, but I sold a lot of my older Cold Steels when Cold Steel got sold. I sold some OS 8 Cold Steels, some BD1 Cold Steels, some XHP Cold Steels, and those I could sell most of the times for more than what I bought them for. So yeah, sometimes when the brand has a good reputation, you can sell them for more. So but again, the profit was not huge in the end. Still, I think at the lower price range you have it a little bit easier. Not in the budget price range, because again, budget knives, most of them are made in China. They're not holding their value at all. A $50 knife all of a sudden is only worth like a 35, so they even decrease in value pretty quickly. And yeah, I think in the kind of 100 to 200-ish price range you have it a little bit easier, because if you wait long enough, knives are sold and not being available anymore. There are certain brands that are always hard to get, like GCs. You can always sell a Great Eastern Cutlery within seconds. If you put it online, it's going to be gone within a day. That's pretty guaranteed. Even if it's in used condition or unused condition, you can sell those most of the times for at least the price that you paid for it. So those have a good value. They hold their value better than most Chris Reeves actually do. So, and that's again for rarity. Availability makes the price really. It's the same thing with Strider and yeah, most brands. This knife I bought for around 100 euros, brand new. And this knife is probably, has some oil and some fuzzles on there, so don't worry about that. This knife is probably worth at least 3, 4, maybe even 6 times the price that I paid for it. So yeah, some knives hold their value pretty well because they are no longer in production. So again, availability and reputation of the brand makes kind of a lot of the price you can ask for it. So this knife, very, very collectible. You would make a much higher profit than on a Chris Reeve, because Chris Reeves are still in production and this knife is no longer in production. So yeah, it really depends how long the knife is produced. I showed you an older Almar quite a while ago, and this knife is obviously worth a lot more than what you pay for it when you buy it brand new. I personally bought mine from a collector, so I'm also gonna not make as much profit in the end, but still gonna be worth a lot in a couple of years or in a decade from now, because it's in good condition and everything. But yeah, the question here though is with these knives, for instance the Chinese Lam here is such a great knife and such a lovely design that I really like. Bob Lam, probably one of my most favorite knife designers ever. That the question is, do I even want to make the $400 of profit here, or do I want to keep it? And in this case, I probably end up keeping it and end up using it and end up devaluing it by using it, because it's such a good knife and I do like it so much. So yeah, that's the real difficult question, because as a fan, as a knife collector yourself, you do like knives so much sometimes that you don't want to sell them and you don't want to get the money, because to me $400 or $500 in profit are not worth as much as having it. So yeah, it's really difficult in the end. So yeah, but you get what I'm saying. So availability, if a brand goes away completely, that's a huge yeah, all of a sudden price knives are, the knife value changes completely. And yeah, rare pieces of knives, Cold Steel and Spyderco, I think for me are probably the knives that I have, that are the knife brands that I have that are most valuable, because I have collected them for such a long time that they do get kind of rare. Here's an older Cold Steel, for example. This is a Cold Steel model R1, which is kind of a Randall inspired Cold Steel. And this one is also kind of rare and kind of collectible, and probably way more expensive now than what I paid for it. But yeah, this is also a cool knife and I want to keep it and collect it. So yeah, knives like this are way more collectible than expensive knives, because these were knives in the $100 to $200 range, and knives in the $500 range, yeah, you can't sell them for more than what you paid them for, or a lot more than what you paid them for, unless, like I said, they go out of business, they are not longer in production, then the game has completely changed. But there is gonna be a limit to what people are willing to pay for it. Now, a very good example, for instance, is the ProTech collector investor lineup. So if you know ProTech knives, obviously they make some great auto knives. I do like them quite a bit, they have a lineup where they really go all out with their knives. They do a lot of engraving, rare materials, very rare Damascus steel and everything. And it's great for ProTech. I think they should absolutely push the limits on what is possible with their knives and what, yeah, do the craziest version that they possibly can. I think that's a good thing. Our knife companies should always do something like that. I think it's not a bad thing at all. But this collector investor series kind of sells anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. So let's go with the very extreme here. So let's say you buy a $10,000 ProTech investor knife, and then what? What happens is you're gonna sit on that knife, and 10 years later you try to sell it for how much are you going to sell it? Like, are you going to sell it for 20,000? Because that still 20,000. If you invested 10,000 and you get back 20, you still only made 10,000 profit. That's not crazy. It's not no money, but it's not crazy. And also the question is, are you going to get 20,000? Because I highly doubt that you're going to get $20,000. Realistically, you're not even going to get $10,000. I think what's going to end up happening, you're going to collect it for a couple of years, and then you're going to sell it for maybe 6,000, maybe not even 6,000, maybe even just 5,000. So in the end, you're going to lose a lot of money with a knife like this and not going to make a lot of money because it's secondary market. Let's be realistic. Would you buy a $20,000 knife from a stranger on the internet? You're not going to do that. So it's not going to happen. And so I think knives are terrible investment pieces, especially expensive knives, really bad investment pieces. Good investment pieces are, like I said, like brands that are have a good reputation, like Spyderco, Cold Steel. Spyderco sprint runs, for instance, are a good investment because they are no longer in production. You buy them for a little bit over 100 euros, you sell them for 300 euros, but you have to do it a lot to make any profit out of it. So yeah, if you invest in knives, be smart. Don't get like really expensive knives, because those are decreasing in value really quickly. Like I said, even the Chris Reeves do, even though they hold their value relatively well, but you're never gonna sell those for what you paid for them, unless it's like a real rare version and you find a crazy collector that's willing to pay crazy prices for it. But that's very unlikely. So knives as investment pieces, I think they're really bad. I think you should only buy knives that you want to use, and maybe some rare pieces. Like, I'm a huge Spyderco nut and I'm a Cold Steel nut, so I'm gonna collect rare Cold Steels and rare Spydercos. But yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy with these, and I'm also not gonna sell them for crazy prices in the end, because I'm gonna keep them. That's realistically what's going to happen. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video. I hope you guys like the topic. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and maybe we see each other in another video. Goodbye, people.